And welcome back to the episode of the Geek Centurions. Me, your boy Eli.
To be Joe.
And we're doing a Halloween episode. Just kind of like we did last time. We talked about Evil Dead. This time we're talking about another well-known horror movie, one of my favorites. We're talking about American Werewolf in London, a film by
John Landis.
John Landis, who is well respected. He's made Animal House and other such things. I think he was in Coming to America.
I think he wrote Coming to America. I don't.
Yeah.
I will look it up real quick, but yeah. Yeah, no, he's a very prolific filmmaker, screenwriter. I mean, he did the Blues Brothers as well.
Yeah.
You know.
So he's well known, and people have at least seen some of his movies. But this is probably one of his more well known, famous movies.
Yeah, it's like it's up there in terms of I guess in terms of like pop culture.
Yeah.
Wise in the horror space, American Werewolf in London is definitely one of those. I think at the time it was a bit of a cult classic. I think it's still a cult classic to this day.
But now it's kind of like a well-respected cult classic.
Yeah, because it does a lot of interesting things. It's a very interesting premise, I guess.
Yeah, I actually looked this up a while back. So obviously American Werewolf in London. Let's just go through the whole plot structure. Well, not the plot structure, but the main point of the story is these two American kids are walking around in London.
Yeah, they're backpacking through Europe, I think.
Because every kid does that nowadays.
Oh yeah, every like college student, like that's a thing that happens sometimes. They'll just take a year off and be like, I'm gonna travel through Europe with just a backpack, do all that sort of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
It's just these two guys, David and John, right?
Yes.
I believe that's their name. So David's the main character.
Jack. It was Jack.
Jack. Sorry, it was Jack.
I was like, I was looking through the movie.
It was a J name, and very common J name.
Yeah.
I was gonna be, but anyways, they're just, they come across this pub, Slaughtered Lamb, I think it was called.
Yeah, it was exactly called the Slaughtered Lamb.
And then they have some weird vibes on it. There's like a freaking pentagram on the wall.
Yeah.
And it's just like everybody's kind of a little weird.
And from there, they get essentially kicked out. Some people are like, maybe we shouldn't kick them out though.
Yeah, there's a full moon after all, and it's like it's none of our business. Bloody hell. But yeah, it's like, hey, they're just having to wander around late at night in the freaking hills of the England countryside, and they hear these strange noises, and next thing you know, they get attacked by this weird animal.
It's a werewolf. Yeah. And essentially, Jack dies, and essentially becomes this downward spiral of David's mental state.
Yeah, survivor's guilt and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But also, he starts having these bizarre ass dreams and nightmares and all that stuff.
I want to talk about some of those bizarre ass dreams. Funny enough, but we'll get to that. But essentially, he becomes a werewolf. And part of the werewolf rules, which is a rule I kind of like. It kind of makes it seem very more tragic. Is that you're forever haunted by the ghosts of those that you've killed, or those who are like essentially killed by the werewolf's curse. Because Jack shows up and he's like probably one of the best,
special effects,
makeups
and stuff.
Yeah, because like dude is like he's recognizable because you have to know it's Jack, but like just the tear of skin, the open like blood,
This guy was mauled to death.
This guy was mauled, which and as the movie goes on, he progressively gets less skin.
Yeah, he's a rotting corpse.
He is a literal rotting corpse. But essentially, he's telling David, you gotta kill yourself. You gotta end the werewolf's curse.
for me to be at peace and move on to the next world, and not be a wandering corpse.
Yeah.
In limbo. You got you just gotta kill yourself. You gotta end the werewolf curse.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like like David is at very first. This is like I'm dreaming. This is some bullshit. Because he's been having these weird dreams.
Yeah, there's no other reason.
And yeah, like so he's having to put up with that. He does form a bit of a bond with this nurse.
Yeah.
yeah, you could call it a bond.
Florence Nightingale, where you at?
Yeah, that's the yeah, but it's that's a thing that happens,
yeah, but to sum it up, like I said, it's sort of a downward spiral of David's mental, he's going through the ringer in terms of his mentality. And I think that's one of the reasons why when people say like horror movies, like being like, there's the slashers, there's the stuff like, Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th. Now, but I would say American Werewolf in London, while still being kind of like akin to that, like, very bloody, very like horror, it's more of a psychological horror, in my opinion. Because like throughout the movie, like I said earlier, his mental state is going through a lot. His dreams are very like weird and sort of like surreal. Like it's mostly of him running around the woods, acting like a wolf, hunting, and eating deers.
Yeah.
And like there's so many other like interesting like dream sequences. Do you want to talk about some of those dream sequences?
I mean, I think he brought up one where he's naked running around the woods like a wolf, and he basically tackles a deer and starts eating it.
Yeah.
Which is just funny to me.
Funny enough, I think that's the scene that got him, because the actor who played David was known for something else before this movie. He was like the mascot for Dr. Pepper.
Interesting.
Yeah. He was like the Dr. Pepper guy, and because they had him running around naked, they're like, yeah, we can't associate you with Dr. Pepper anymore. We're going to have to cut ties.
Well, I mean, that's not his fault that the script called for that. You know? Like, it was like, it should have been, hey, listen, they made me, jump around naked. Let's not listen. Not my fault. I didn't read the script till I got to the shoot.
It's because I had a flat ass.
I don't know. I don't even know how to describe any of his bodily features like that.
I'm just making the joke because I didn't even pay attention to that.
Oh, thank God. Because I was gonna be like, oh no, should I have been paying attention to his ass? Please don't tell me I have to watch that.
No.
But okay. There is another dream sequence that I think is more prevalent. I think it's definitely the more, I guess, shocking. I guess.
Oh yeah, that's the one I wanted to talk about too.
It's because I think at first I didn't realize what it was about until maybe halfway through. I'm like, oh okay, because it's his family, and it's just he's back at home with his family, just doing stuff like Christmas time, I think, and straight up these weird monsters, wearing some military getup, just break in, and start gunning people down. They hold David through, they hold David, have a knife at his throat while they just murder his family.
Yeah. And
just making these weird noises and stuff, before slitting his throat.
Yeah.
And then he wakes up and it's like, the nurse like, oh, I just had a terrible dream. Okay, don't worry, I have something to fix you up. Opens the blinders, and then another one of those monsters shows up, starts just stabbing her to death. And
so here's the interesting: David's Jewish. Mm-hmm. They made a note of that at the beginning because for whatever reason this nurse is checking his junk.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, there is just that one nurse hey, they just checked out his junk, whatever. It mentions that he's circumcised or something like that, right?
He's like, he's clearly a Jewish boy. How do you know he's Jewish? Oh, I know.
It's like, why did you?
In front of the doctor too.
Yeah, the doctor shows up. Like, get out of here. Do you have any business here? not really. Then get out.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's just so. I think that leans into the other aspect of American Werewolf is that it's often there was a horror comedy.
Yeah,
and the comedy bits are definitely very interesting.
it's very. I think John Landis was inspired by a lot of like British comedy.
Yeah, I think that's what I was kind of leaning towards. Very sort of dry humor stuff because there are moments where just like. You're laughing more at like the situation rather than just like a joke being told or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, you know,
yeah.
All those dreams are like that whole dream sequence is definitely like just freaking weird.
So the reason why I say bring up the fact that he is he's Jewish is that if the attention to detail on the outfits are very Nazi-esque, and like the wolf and Nazis are kind of like the Nazis did use wolf imagery every once in a while.
Yeah, I mean,
so that kind of like adds like an interesting layer to the situation.
Yeah, that is a neat little attention to detail. I will admit that definitely adds. Yeah, you said layers to that whole sequence there. Like maybe the wolf inside him is that's probably how he interprets it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's those dream sequences are definitely some of the most interesting things.
Violent too.
Yeah, like
there's a scene where the dad goes flying off, kind of like in a funny, but like also like what just happened?
Yeah.
And like they don't like there's kids and they don't clearly show the kids being killed,
but they get gunned down.
They got gunned down. They get set on fire.
Yeah, it's just Jesus, man.
And then just the quick slashing of the throat, it was just like, oh god.
Yeah. So I think we can circle back to the humor stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think that is sort of the interesting thing about it is that it has some pretty solid humor all around.
Yeah.
Because Jack himself, being this sort of like ghost, basically, like he just like he has a lot of humorous bits to him.
Yeah.
He isn't like say like one of those ghosts from A Christmas Carol where I'll be like, oh, you must kill yourself. It's like no, listen, bud. Sorry, I'm freaking you out here for a second, but on the down low, you gotta kill yourself, man.
Like what?
Yeah, he's
Jack, what are you talking about?
Yeah, he's not like even like saying it's your responsibility. It's like, listen, bro, come on, you gotta do this solid. Yeah. He's so calm, I guess, about it.
He's so used to it.
Yeah, he's just like, yeah, I'm kind of dead.
Hey, remember that girl I was into?
Yeah, she mourned at my funeral and then went straight into the arms of another man. Life really knows how to screw me over, huh?
That was the funniest one in my opinion because I was like, oh, dude, that sucks.
Because he was talking all about this girl and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go. Once we get back, we're probably gonna settle down, do that stuff, maybe get married a bit, and then it's like, oh yeah, that girl I was into ran into the arms of another man when I died.
Man, and grief is a thing, though.
Like, hey, friggin', even in death, the joke's on me. Am I right or am I right?
Ha 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 ha.
It's like you're freaking me out.
You know what's funny? Like, they almost got like I think there was supposedly like a cut scene of that where because he's eating toast, right?
Yeah.
So while he's eating it, the toast falls off his throat.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they cut that. One that was like too graphic. I think that was one of the reasons. The other one is like it kind of takes away from the earlier illusion of whether or not this is all in his head. Because it's like, well, what if someone comes in and they see like toast in the air?
Okay, I think I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I feel like honestly, I assume it's gonna be more. The reason we would cut something like that out would be more of like a practical reason, like maybe like in the effort to get the makeup and all that stuff on, like it just didn't work out as well.
That too, I could see that being because even I'm like, well, how would you like?
Yeah, like
unless you have like one like in there and like you could just release it real quick.
Yeah, like maybe like there's like a little like string that's like you try to like hide from the camera and you just pull it out. You know, like slowly like pull it out so that it falls out as soon as he puts it in his mouth or whatever. Because I don't know, like it seems like there's a way to like get that trick to work.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's certainly interesting. That's an interesting thing because I've also heard about that a certain more famous sequence in the movie was supposed to be shorter.
Oh, you mean the transformation scene?
Yes, the transformation scene.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the director sort of felt like he probably could have made it a bit shorter, which I find that to be interesting.
Well, it's one of those things where I'm like, I can kind of get why, because it lasts a while.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's so effective. Because like literally, just look up like American Werewolf in London's Werewolf transformation. It's like almost legendary.
I think it is one of the main reasons why this movie has had such a lasting impact, not just in its own genre, but like in pop culture as a whole. Because I think
I would say film as well.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of special effects, it's just freaking crazy what they could do with practical effects. I think he won an Oscar for the practical effects.
It did.
And I think more to the point of like getting to see essentially what, because I think for the most part, in movies before this, werewolves were always just kind of like you wouldn't get to see much of the transformation.
No, like so like the Universal monster movies with the Wolfman, it was like a fade in transition.
Yeah.
Like he would just like stand still, say like his eyes closed, and then just goes slide slowly to hair growing more.
Yeah.
Like changing of the feet, but and I think that's what it's always been for like from some people. And I think there's another movie. I think it was The Howling, or no, Silver Bullet was a different one. I think that one also had like a very like long transformation scene, but like this one clearly like tops it.
I think it's partially just because it feels like okay, it seems like what realistically would happen if a human body were to transform into this sort of wolf like hybrid kind of body. You know what I mean?
And like it's more wolf than man.
Yeah, it definitely is because once you get to fully see,
and that's another thing, you don't see the werewolf.
You barely get to see the werewolf for the most part. I mean, there are images out there of the full like animatronic they have of the werewolf, which I mean. There's a funny image. There's a funny image.
It's the meme image. Everyone's seen the meme image.
Yeah, the meme image of that golden retriever looking happily, and then there's the giant animatronic leaning like with the scary ass face and stuff. Like that's like if you've seen that meme, you know what the werewolf looks like.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yeah, like even in the beginning when that first werewolf shows up, like you barely get to see him at all. It's like just the torso bit and like the bit of the head. And
but it's so effective because like it's really just centered around like the mauling of Jack, because like Jack gets like, and it's like literal almost screams of terror, like oh my god, I'm like this thing is like ripping me apart.
No, I think that definitely the screen, the acting in that portion definitely sells that scene very well.
And like it obviously like even in like that just level of like scream is like even translated. I wouldn't say translate, but it like also used effectively when in the transformation sequence itself, because like it is a loud, dragging scream of pain. Like they show like his body like contorting in ways like, well, not I wouldn't say contorting, but stretching and like places of one's like toe being farther apart than when it is.
Yeah,
and it's just kind of like if you imagine like that happening to you, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, like like I said, like it feels like a somewhat of basically a realistic take on what would happen to the human body if it were to transform into basically a wolf. And it's it's just like all this is happening. The music in the background is fitting in terms of like like hey.
Well, that's the thing. Like normally, and it's not. I'm just saying like the fact that it's it being a normal thing being bad. But usually, you would get like some kind of like string or whatever instruments to like really
like an orchestral
like
thing of like sort of like an orchestral soundtrack or whatever that
to accompany like the fact that this transformation is horrifying.
Like much how like say the Wolfman does, in like any other werewolf movie. And here it's a pop song, right?
Yeah. I see a blue moon rising.
Yeah, like it's sort of like gives that bit of irony. Like it's a happy go lucky song about the moon being juxtaposed to this man suffering all kinds of pain.
Also cutting to a happy Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, just Mickey in the background, just like.
Well, there's the way it looks like it's almost like it's looking at him.
It's like, oh God. Oh, hi Goofy. Oh my God.
That's how Goofy would look like.
Yeah, that's how Goofy would look like. Actually, realistically. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's I think probably one of my favorite shots of the movie. I think is like for the most part, like you don't get to see much of the werewolf, but there is one sequence where he's chasing this businessman through the
I love
subway.
That scene.
But it's only through like you get to see it from the eyes of just the werewolf, like chasing him, and like you would cut back to like the guy because you don't get to see it chasing him up until the moment where he tries to get up these escalators and he falls down, and he's like just too tired to get back up, and like as he's like pulling up and you're at the top of the escalator, you see that werewolf just at the bottom, like slowly coming out of the tunnel.
Well, also what I love is that they kept it at a height that would make sense, right? It's not like, like if the dude was running, he would turn back and his like eyes would be like, the camera would be like on his head, on his like the top part of his body.
Yeah.
But like since it's like David as the werewolf, he's low down.
Yeah, like he's eyes to the ground, like looking up at this guy.
Yeah. And then the shot of like him like of the werewolf coming in, which is only the only time you ever really see like the full body.
Yeah.
It's like it's small. Well, not small, but like
it's an imposing animal.
Yeah. It's down on the ground, all fours, but like it is big. But like it doesn't give the stature of like most like other like Wolfman kind of height thing where it's like standing upright. It's down on the ground, more like aggressive tone.
Yeah, like this is definitely one of those depictions of a werewolf where it's definitely way more wolf-like than like, because it's usually always like, I would argue that there's like 3 types of werewolves. Yeah, the one that's just a hairy guy, basically.
Wolfman, universal Wolfman.
Universal Wolfman stuff. Pretty much like basically wolf.
Mm-hmm. Just big wolf.
Just a big wolf like we see here in American Werewolf. And then there's the in-between where it's like has the wolf-like features but can stand upright and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Say Underworld or that Van Helsing movie.
I like the Van Helsing movie.
I really like that movie too. Even if it's not the best.
No.
Boy does it really go all out.
it knew what it was and it went with it.
Yep. But yeah, I will admit, like, it's just talking praises about the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, I will admit, probably the only, I guess, criticisms I got.
Go for it.
When I was watching this movie is more of a, I guess it's more of like pace.
Yes, I do think that's the one thing holding it back. Because like, it's got to take place under a month.
Yeah, because basically, they get attacked by the werewolf, and David gets basically put into a coma. And it's like
for 3 weeks.
Yeah, like literally explains like, he's been in a coma for 3 weeks.
Your friend's dead.
Your friend's dead, and
then don't worry, they're burying him right now. This is the doctor. This is the nurse. She's gonna be with you, and like immediately they're together. They're in love. Which I'm like, again, like Florence Nightingale thing. That's why I made the joke earlier.
Yeah. That's the Florence Nightingale effect.
Yeah, but also like I will say, at least you can kind of get why they're into each other.
A little bit, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's at least a level of chemistry. Yeah,
honestly, I think. Yeah, it is sort of interesting because it feels like, it definitely not to say it rushes stuff. Mm-hmm. but more sort of that like it feels like just things kind of just happen for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Like there isn't like this leads into that to leads into that. It's more like this happens
where something organically happens. Where this is more like random stuff just seems to happen.
Yeah, you know.
And I'm guessing you're saying more on the characters than like the actions of the werewolf.
I guess yeah, I would probably say that. Because once David does turn into a werewolf, he goes basically on a killing spree.
How many has he killed?
6. I think they said it was 6 people.
Oh God. 3 homeless, a couple, and the subway guy.
The subway guy, yeah. Yeah, and it's like because it's still the full moon, he's just sort of like realizes that he's kind of boned, just sort of runs off. But yeah, no, I think I feel like what I mean is when it comes to pacing, like it feels like, yeah, I think it's sort of like characters or just stuff kind of happens kind of quickly for them, and I think I guess I can kind of understand why, in terms of like the plot, they basically had David just be in a coma for like 3 weeks just so that like he can still be in London when the full moon happens and turn into a werewolf in London. But I think the other thing that like when it comes to like pacing and stuff is more of like kind of the ending.
Oh, okay, keep going because I think I know what you're going with.
Because I won't lie, it really does feel like it just kind of ends.
Yes. Yes. Like, I knew we were going to talk about that.
Like, not to say that it like could have gone for longer, because this movie's like an hour and a half, which is more or less fine for like a horror movie. But I mean more in terms of like just we have big confrontation at the end, and it just sort of like ends.
I think it's one of those things where it's more for kind of a comedic thing, but also like there's nothing else to do or say, right? Like it's one of those. This is a movie I saw a while back. I think it was called Blade of the Stranger. It was an old Japanese samurai film, and there's a lot of build up to the conversation, so a possible conversation of these two characters, but it doesn't. And none of that happens. It just like it hard cuts to an ending, and it's kind of like the hell, the fuck, that's it. And I do agree, it's a little like jarring, but I feel like it kind of works though, right? I can't explain it, but it feels right. Like the werewolf is dead, the story is done, kind of stuff. Because I feel like that's how it would be in most. That's how it was in like the Universal monster films. Not to say they shouldn't have done that, or they could have done something better. There's always the hindsight's 2020. You could have done something a lot better. But I feel like it fits with the tone of the movie because it doesn't just hard cut, go to black. Hard cut goes to black, plays a pop song.
Yeah. I think for me it's more of a because I don't know because I think in that case what you're talking about like there's like a build up.
Yeah.
Here I don't think there was necessarily a build up to like the eventual end. It's sort of just like David just so happens to turn into a werewolf in a populated area, and basically the cops more or less corner him into an alley, and he sort of just dies. Not to say that I expected him. I'm not trying to say that it would have been cooler if
he went out in a blaze of glory.
Glory, just killing a bunch of cops and we're getting ultimately gunned down. But what I am saying is that it is definitely a bit of an interesting take to just have him just be gunned immediately down by all these cops in a corner in this alleyway. And sort of just cut to now he is back to a regular person, dead in the ground, naked.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I did remember hearing like an interesting like thought on that ending where it's like more not like how it ends, but like the the issue with the situation with what's her name, Alex.
Alex or Alice? It's one of the two.
Yeah. So, like, she basically goes to David, still in werewolf form, and she's like, professes her love to her, and like, there's a moment where like, and this is what I'm saying. Like, the ending itself is a very interesting ending. I think you're not wrong to feel that way. My take is could be, it's also like a 50-50 thing out there. Mm-hmm. But there's one interesting take I did remember hearing. It was that for a second you can look into like the eyes of the wolf, and it looks sad.
No, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because there is a bit where it does, like, you could kind of see that there might be some recognition.
Yeah.
In the wolf's eye of like, oh, this is person I love, kind of thing, before it leaps to it leaves like an interesting, like, I won't lie, like, I think it's probably the only part of the ending where I think it leaves a bit of an open-ended, like, one, is David still conscious? Mm-hmm. Has he like recognized it, or is it just like a split second kind of thing? Like, do you like is it possible that he might have acknowledged that she was there right before he, like, I don't know, tries to kill her? Mm-hmm.
Or did he Oh, well, I'll let you finish.
No, like, or if it was more of a, like, because it's a, or it just happens to look like that, because he's a werewolf. He's basically just animal instinct. Because I think they say, like, he doesn't remember anything from, like, his previous night. Mm-hmm. Just that, like, yeah, I feel great. I don't know why.
I feel full.
Yeah.
Like I ate like a 7-course meal. Well, 6 more.
Well, I mean, I don't know if he, I don't think he specifically says that, oh, I don't feel that hungry. I mean, granted, he does sort of has that thing. I think sometimes we're like, I'm not really hungry. I don't know why. Uh-huh. But I think it was more of like, man, I feel great. I feel like so much chipper. I don't even have any bad dreams. Wonder what happened. Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. So I think the ending itself is an interesting one. I wouldn't say it's a terrible ending.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
It's a interesting ending.
Yes.
In terms of just, it feels a bit abrupt. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's also just like the level of, like, how much shit he's gone through at the same time, mm-hmm. or like being haunted by these people. Because, like, it also goes to the comedy, because like he ends up going to like a porno movie theater.
Yeah, basically.
Funny enough, I think I remember reading somewhere that John Landis originally wrote because he wrote like a lot of the locations that he had at the time, because he wrote this story a while back, didn't have enough money to produce it yet, to make it, and that porno theater used to always show cartoons. Actually, it was before it was a porno theater.
I mean, that's kind of funny.
And I think he wanted it to be a Tasmanian Devil cartoon. But now it's like...
But then once he got there, it's like, wait, this is only a porno movie theater? God damn it. I guess we can work with this. I'm actually surprised that he wasn't just like, hey, can we just borrow this place and just play an old, cartoon and like just redecorate the outside? But I'm guessing the owner's just like, no, pay us more money.
It's actually a lot more funnier this way, though.
I mean, I guess, yeah, it is a bit funnier, because it's like the last place you be having such a serious conversation while there's just people banging on the screen.
Yeah, because like it's like there's all these people. By this point, Jack is like almost basically a skeleton.
Well, yeah, he's more zombie than man now.
Yeah,
he's entered the zombie state.
Yeah. And then it's just like all the people he's killed. And I always find it funny how the couple's just happy.
Hey, listen, all right, they're just a bit pranksters, like.
Yeah, that's how they died.
Yeah, they're gonna prank their friend, and the next thing you know, they decided to go to the back, and then they just get mauled to death by a wolf.
Yeah.
They're just like, well, I mean, at least we're together. I think that's the reason why they're kind of happy, because they were supposed to get married. It's like, hey, we're together in the afterlife. That's what counts.
You're in purgatory, lady.
Yeah, but we're still together though. That's what really counts, and we still have these rings.
I mean, everyone else is like, "Fuck you, dude, kill yourself." That's something that was always like, I always like. It was kind of funny, but also kind of messed up.
Uh-huh.
Because like the guy from the subway is like, "You left my wife widowless. You left my son fatherless. Fuck you."
Pretty much, yeah.
And like, and then all the homeless guys like, "I don't care how he dies. He's gotta die."
Yeah.
But and like there's even they're like talking about how to kill himself, and they're like, Jack's like, "Let's not give him a very painful death. This is my friend." And they're like, "He's not my butt." And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Screw this dude.
Yeah, it's very much of a. It's an interesting dynamic of like Jack being reasonable and wanting the best for his friend
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff. You know. Meanwhile, all these people are very rightfully like, I don't know this guy, and he murdered the shit out of me.
Exactly.
Fuck him, you know?
Exactly. So I was talking about how an interesting thing about John Landis when he was making this movie. So obviously, like I said earlier, he had it written up a while back, and took him a while to make the movie. So the idea was, I think he was like on a trip with a friend, for like for a film or something, and like he noticed how these people were kind of like doing a funeral service, and he was so intrigued about the way this cult. I forget what cult where it was, but I'm pretty sure if you like search into it, you'll find it. But he was very interested in the idea of like how this is all connected, like the afterlife, purgatory, and like stuff about creatures and all that stuff. Because he was like a big like monster fan, a Universal monster fan. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like where he kind of put it all together. And I'm paraphrasing, so there's much more details out there, obviously, again. But that's where like the idea came from. And funny enough, I think it was originally supposed to be in Paris, in France.
Which ironically, there is technically a sequel to this movie, and it's American Werewolf in Paris, which, as far as I know, more or less doesn't have any characters from this movie.
It's implied that the main character is a possible daughter of David.
Interesting.
Yes.
Um.
But yeah, no one talks about that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, for good reason.
Yeah, there's a good reason why that movie isn't talked about at all. But yeah, I mean, besides that, I think I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about the movie? Or
no, I think it's for one, it's a very short movie.
Yeah,
it's very like in and out, like you said, pacing issues, but nothing bad. But no, you can kind of see why this is a very like well beloved film, and like why it inspired like some, like you can kind of see why Sam Raimi like got like some of the stuff that he would do for Evil Dead from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's such a beloved, you can kind of get why it's so loved, because of the way it is, the comedy, the horror, the mix of a lot of stuff, the use of like music. It's such like, I wouldn't say lightning in the bottle, but it's like this is. I'm also not saying a perfect movie, but like this is like so, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry.
Unique.
Yes, this is what makes this movie so unique compared to everything else that you come to used to when it comes to werewolf movies. Like if you watch like what was it, The Wolfman from 22 with Benicio del Toro.
Yeah,
it was an okay movie, but like when you compare like all those to like say this, it's like cream of the crop kind of stuff.
Right.
It's like peak werewolf movie. This is what it is, and there's a reason why. What's his name? The guy who directed Scott Pilgrim.
Edgar Wright.
Edgar Wright loves this movie. He loves this movie. That dude will get any chance to talk about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He will do it.
That's certainly interesting.
Yeah.
I did look into it a little bit, and that there was supposedly a proposed remake of American Werewolf in London, and the script was going to be written by John Landis' son, Max Landis.
Mm-hmm.
However, due to circumstances involving him and various reports of abuse by women.
Oh, we don't need that.
Yeah, like apparently, it's unknown whether he did finish writing it or not or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, or heck, even if they are still going to do it, which honestly,
I don't need it.
I mean, yeah, I don't think most people need it. I mean, that's too far. That's most remakes, at least.
Yeah.
You don't need most movie remakes aren't needed. But it would. I think it'd be interesting to see what a modern day version of an American Werewolf in London would look like.
Mm-hmm.
I just from more of a I guess writing standpoint, because I feel like there's like just no way they could match the transformation sequence.
No. There's no way. There's a reason why that transformation sequence is like no one has topped that. No one can top that. And I'm saying it's like, even with special effects like green and all that stuff, it's still like wouldn't feel right. Mm-hmm. Like the charm and the thing that made this one great is that, one, it's really long, and two, like it, like you can kind of see how, like you said earlier, like how like anatomically this would happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's so painful, and the fact that it drags makes it painful. With CGI, it feels like they'll just make it quicker. Like, the only way I can probably see them like probably topping it, do it again, but a one shot.
I mean, that'd be interesting. I mean, that's an interesting idea to go with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, this movie definitely, I don't know, because I only bring up the idea of the remake because I think I remember seeing stuff about it. But yeah, I do think it's probably going to be, if they ever decide to remake it, that would be probably the big debate, whether or not, like, could they do that again? Can they make it look good in CGI, or would they just straight up go with, practical effects again? I mean, who knows? Or even if it sticks to that R rating, and stuff. I don't know. It's an interesting take. I think I'm more interested in terms of the writing, like I said, because I feel like it'd be interesting to see if they either go more comedic with it or they go more horror with it.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of the real way to differentiate itself from the original, is to lean into either making it more horror or more comedic, but at the same time, I feel like it would kind of lessen what that movie is, because I feel like part of what makes American Werewolf so interesting is that it has a solid balance of both.
No, you're right. There is like a level of balance that makes the movie what it is. But it's like we said, why make a remake, right? I mean, like, maybe a spiritual successor, you could say, but I doubt it'd be anything like that. And it's one of those movies, like, I think it won't ever be touched. Like if they were to remake Back to the Future, like, no, don't do that.
No, yeah, there are certain movies out there that definitely just don't need a remake.
Yeah. Because it's almost, like, perfect. And like I said, I said, like, this isn't, like, I wouldn't say a perfect movie, but this is peak of a werewolf movie. And that's about all I got. Anything for you?
No, I think I've discussed most of the stuff that I've...
Yeah, no, it's a great movie. I recommend people to watch it. I've been trying to get some people that I know to watch it and like get their thoughts on it. But yeah, no. If you guys enjoyed what you heard, be sure to follow us on all social medias: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at the Geek Centurions. And if you on the Instagram where we're most active on, you'll find a link to all the podcasts that we're officially part of, like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, all the like, and a link to the YouTube where all you audio listeners out there can put a face to the voice. And be sure to support us in any form on Patreon. And yeah, that's it. American Werewolf in London. Highly recommended movie. Just in time for Halloween.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie to watch if you're looking for something to watch on Halloween.
Yeah. And yeah, it's me and your boy Eli.
It's me, Joe.
You guys have a good one. Peace.